Hello, good morning, everyone. And it's Thursday. It's just gone 10:30. It's time for a BoPS show and tell. So welcome to the 7th show and tell of this ongoing phase of product development for BoPS, a new back office planning system for local planning authorities. Now, BoPS processes planning applications in a more efficient and intuitive way. Please click subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, and we will keep you updated on new content. And as ever, this show and tell is being recorded, and it will shortly be available on this channel alongside all of our other show and tells from previous sprints. My name is Tom Buttrick from Southwark Council, and I'm here today with Peter Forrest and colleagues from Southwark, and also our development partners Unboxed, to show you what we've been working on this sprint. For those of you who are here for the first time, BoPS is a new software application that's been designed by and for local planning authorities to process planning applications. Our users are therefore planning officers who work through the caseload of planning applications every day, and the planning managers who review the recommendation by the planning officer and issue the decision to the applicant. Now, we recently launched the private beta version of BoPS, where partner councils are using the MVP, excuse me, to process live lawful development certificates alongside our sister digital tool, Ripper, which means reducing invalid planning applications. Now, Ripper is the tool where applicants submit their lawful development certificate applications, and BoPS is the tool where planning officers process the application. And we're processing both tools, so they are iterated each week to provide new features and new functions. So if you're a planner or a planning manager, we're building BoPS and Ripper for you. If you have any questions from the show and tell, please post them here using this rebranding link. The link is also in the description of this YouTube video. So what have we been doing this sprint? I'm going to hand over to Pete to tell you about it. Pete.
Cheers, Tom. So Sprint 7's been a lot around validation and making sure that the upfront part of the process is as complete as it can be. So we've been looking at the result that comes in from Ripper. This is kind of like the opinion that Ripper has about the answers to the questions that have been put to the applicant. So at the end of answering all of the questions in Ripper, the applicant will get a message from Ripper saying, Ripper thinks that you need to submit a full planning application or whatever, planning application isn't required. Previously, that wasn't coming through to BoPS, but obviously it's really useful for the case officer to see that and understand what the applicant's been told. And also the applicant has the opportunity to disagree with that or to express why they feel that they disagree with that. And that is in the result details as well. All of this we're going to go into in much more detail in a moment with my colleagues. With the Redline tool, we now have, thanks to some brilliant work by Stuart Carter at Southwark GIS team, he's allowed us now access to the Ordnance Survey mapping data, and that is great. We really appreciate that. And we now have reasons for why a document has been submitted included. So, for example, I've uploaded a phone bill, and this proves that I was resident at the address on this date, and that's helpful for immunity cases. We're doing monitoring of the users, so we're doing time recording now, so we can see the performance, and we are always improving the user guide for BoPS and improving the process flow mapping. We've got receipt notification to tell you about, validation request banners, how we support evidence of an assessment, and then finally iterating assigning officers. And with that, I will hand over to Tom at Unboxed, who will take you through the first design element. Thanks very much, Tom.
Thanks, Pete. Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Gaylor, and I am a UX designer at Unboxed working on this BoPS project. So the first thing I want to talk about is an ongoing piece of work looking at how BoPS can support officers, managers, and the local planning authorities to evidence the assessment that's been done. So as the planning officers are reviewing a case, and as the managers are sort of reviewing the work that's been done, how can we support that process so that everyone can be sure they've done a good job, they can do it in an efficient manner, and that the applicant or the agent or neighbours of applicants and so forth are able to understand the process that's been gone through. And what we're keen to do is to move towards more semantic officer assessment. And this means having more structure in the way that the assessment is made and the evidence of that is recorded. So part of this move from what might at the moment exist as a report, which is just a piece of plain text or a Word document, towards something that's more smart, that's more data rich, that can be used in a whole raft of different ways. And the process we're going through to do that is we're reviewing templates. So partner councils have kindly shared with us their templates, and particularly at the moment we're looking at LDCs, and these are kind of quite unique in some ways in the world of planning, in that they are quite structured in the way that templates can be built, because the policy is such that it's quite comply or not. And so we're looking at both these templates, see how they've been built, what features they have. And we've also been speaking to officers and managers as well, asking them how they make use of this, what value they have. We're really trying to identify the user needs around this, and they can help support some future design work on this topic. Next slide, please. Alongside this, there is also, as has been mentioned, sort of ongoing user testing. And this is really great because it allows us to catch any issues with the design that are coming up. And one such issue was around when a manager or whoever went to change who an application was assigned to. They clicked the change button and it worked. It did show them options, but because of a sort of a flaw in the design, these weren't always visible because they were appearing sort of below. If the screen was quite zoomed in, it was appearing sort of off screen, and no one was aware that this change was happening. So we've responded to this issue. We've quickly changed how it works, and this helps us ensure a consistency and usability across the software. And so that's all and this has also been put into development as well, this sprint. So it shows our ability to be sort of nimble and agile in responding to any issues that are coming up. I'm going to hand over to Rianne, who's going to talk about some of the development that's been going on this sprint.
Hi, I'm Rianne Lewis. I'm a developer at Unboxed and working on the BoPS project. So as Peter mentioned, we've been working on receiving this opinion from RIPA, which is kind of a summarised thought about the questions that the applicant has answered, and we're displaying within the planning application this summarised version, for example, of whether the changes will need planning permission or not. It might be something to do with missing information. And if you could click on the link, please, we can see where it appears in the context of the application. So if you could click on results from API user, this says API user because, as I said, we're preparing to receive this result from RIPA at the moment. So we've actually put this through just via our own API user to see what it would look like. All these fields might not necessarily be here. For example, if the application has been created in some other way, for example, via the internal create tool, we would just see no result here. And when the results are flowing through from RIPA, obviously the heading would say result from RIPA. Obviously, we might not necessarily see the override, the applicant believing the result is incorrect, because in most cases they might not disagree with this. So we have set it up so that if one of these fields comes through, it's displayed. If it doesn't, we don't display it. And if there's no result altogether, we will display no result. Next slide, please. Another thing that we've been working on is the email that people receive. Sorry, could we go to the previous slide? Thank you. The email that the applicant receives as an immediate notification that the BoPS system has received their application from RIPA, so that from their perspective it's seamless. So the applicant is in the RIPA tool, they submit their application, and immediately they have an email notification via the Gov.uk Notify service to show that their application's been received. And then, of course, they can go on to receive further customised validation emails and so on. Next slide, please. Another development piece that we've been working on during this sprint is the ability for the planning officer to see easily an overview of the communication that's been happening backwards and forwards between them and the applicant. So you can see here, and if we could click on the link, please, Tom. You can see here that this application, which I should mention is in our staging site, our test bed site, not the actual production site. We can see that this has a warning banner to say that 3 validation requests are now overdue. So thus enabling the officer to take further action or do whatever. And the one underneath is signposted for information only, saying that they've had responses to requests that have been sent out. And yes, you can then see, go to the link here to see the overall list of validation requests and their statuses. I'm now going to hand over to James.
Hello, yes, I'm James Darling, I'm tech lead on this project. If we go to the next one, yeah, so this is around the Ordnance Survey base map. So the bulk of this work was organizing the license key, but once we had the license key, it was quite simple for us to then replace the base map. So the images underneath the red line with Ordnance Survey data rather than OpenStreetMap data, which is much higher resolution and as well as being identical to what RIPA is using, because they've also got access to the same base map as us now. So what the applicant sees and what the officer sees is identical, which is obviously crucial. Yes, if we have a look at the link, not a huge amount to show here, but just to prove that we have done it, if you click on the site map, you can see that this is there. You can see it's much higher resolution. You can see that red line is, probably correct. That's everything on that one. And the next slide, please. And then the other feature we've done is around allowing the applicant. So in the future, RIPA will be asking the applicant or giving the applicant the opportunity to provide a reason why they're supplying a document. So at the moment, we just have plans, but we can have evidence. So they will be able to submit a PDF of some receipts or something, and they can provide a reason for submitting those receipts. So this proves something. This is kind of crucial for enabling immunity applications. So for example, some evidence that it was built quite a while ago. If we have a look at the link. Yeah, it's there. This is something that will hopefully RIPA will be sending through to us very soon. Yeah, there we go. Next slide, please. And I am passing over to Tom.
Yeah, thank you, James, and thanks, Rhiannon and Tom as well. As a planner, it's great to see those incremental improvements to each part of the process that we undertake as planners. And it's that the further ability to improve the communication within the tool from the planner to the applicant is looking really good. So thanks to the development team for all their hard work, and also thank you to all the users who are feeding back, the planners who are feeding back to us on the tool as it progresses. That support is vital to make this tool as good as it can be. So that's covered this sprint. What's happening in the next sprint? So the general theme of this is, again, looking at further functionality around the site map, the red line plan map, and also again looking at incremental improvements to this validation process. We have a number of workarounds at the moment with the private beta that's currently live with our partner councils, and we're going to be looking at removing one of the workarounds, which is the invalid application notification that gets sent out to the applicant. Also on the horizon is continuing work on evidencing assessment. Now, evidencing assessment is kind of our terminology at the moment for the process that the planning officer takes to assess the application. If it's an LDC, it's assessing it against the regs. If it was a householder, it would be against planning policy in the local plan or guidance or the MPPF. So we're going to be doing some further work on that. The other thing that we have, the important thing moving forward over the next sprint is we're going to the MHCLG, who are our funders, and we're going to be applying for some further funding for the project. And fingers crossed that all goes well. So we will be continuing the project into the future. So we're coming to the end of the show and tell today. Thank you for your time. If you would like a demo of BoPS or you'd like to get involved in testing, do give us a shout. Get in touch. We like to speak to planners. We like to speak to planning managers. If you're interested, our contact details are there. We have our Twitter account. Do sign up for that, and obviously the YouTube channel that you're watching. Do subscribe to that. So thank you. I'm going to jump over now to Athena to see if there are any questions that we may have. Athena, are there any questions?
No, there aren't any questions.
Okay. Well, I'll just give it a second, just if there's any quick late questions coming in. Should we just pause for 1 second? Anything? Just if you could click refresh. Now that we've prompted a request for some questions.
No. So I think everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy. Everyone's blown away by our the quality of the sprint work that we've done. So without further ado, I'd like to say thank you all for those who are watching. Thank you to those if you've watched this on YouTube in the future. And we'll see you again at the next show and tell later on this summer. So thank you very much and goodbye.